Have you ever wondered how one seemingly small decision at the top can send massive waves through an entire country? Well, today, that's exactly what we're digging into. The ripple effect, the cascading consequences that happen when a nation's policies are constantly changing. It's a story that starts small, but trust me, it has huge implications.
Let's break this down. Imagine you're trying to build a house. You've got the land, you've got the materials, the whole crew is ready to go. But what if the government changed the building code every single week? One week you need 3 windows, the next week it's 5. One month, wooden frames are the standard, the next, they're completely banned. How could you possibly build anything that's meant to last? That's the core question we're tackling here.
So, let's start right at the source. This is all about the shaky foundation. And to be really clear, this isn't about one single bad policy. Nope. It's about the destructive pattern of constant change itself.
So what exactly is policy instability? I mean, it's not just your normal legislative updates. It's the frequent, totally unpredictable U-turns in a country's basic rules and its long-term goals. It's like someone keeps sneaking in at night and rewriting the blueprint for that house we were just talking about.
You know, the first damage isn't even economic, it's all internal. The very first cracks start to appear within the government itself. Public trust just starts to crumble because people can't rely on the rules from one day to the next. That collective knowledge, that institutional memory of why we do things this way, it just vanishes. And pretty soon you've got different government ministries basically working against each other. And citizens, well, they start losing faith in the very institutions that are supposed to provide stability.
And of course, that internal weakness doesn't stay internal for long. It inevitably spills outward. And this is where we see that first big ripple hit, and it hits the economy hard, affecting businesses both big and small.
Okay, put yourself in an investor's shoes for a second. Look at this choice. On the left, in a stable environment, it's a giant green light. Taxes are predictable, rules are clear, there's long-term certainty. But on the right, it's a huge red flag. Constant tax shifts, sudden rule changes, and a whole lot of risk. So where would you put your money? It's kind of no wonder capital just stops flowing in.
And for the businesses that are already in the country, the costs just start piling up. They're constantly forced to adjust their accounting, their legal compliance, their entire business plan. And think about sectors like tourism or construction, which rely on planning years, even decades ahead. They're thrown into absolute chaos. It just becomes more expensive and way more difficult to just operate, let alone grow.
So far, we've talked about government and business. But here's the crucial part: how this all trickles down to individuals. This is where that ripple of uncertainty really truly hits home.
Just look at what happens inside the public sector. It's a total domino effect. First, some big new policy gets announced. Then, the entire civil service has to be retrained on the new rules. But here's the kicker. Often, before they can even get up to speed, the policy is rolled out, creating these huge gaps between what the law says and what's actually possible. And the final domino to fall? Morale. It just plummets among the very people who are tasked with serving the public.
And this brings it right down to the kitchen table. How can you possibly plan for your kids' education if the policies keep changing every year? How do you save for a house if the housing rules are constantly in flux? At the end of the day, national instability creates deep personal uncertainty for everyone.
So, from the individual, that ripple expands even further out, until it's reaching the world stage. Now we're talking about how a nation is seen by its neighbors, by its allies, and by the entire international community.
I mean, the difference here is just night and day. A nation with stable policies is seen as a reliable partner. It attracts tourism, investment, foreign aid, goodwill. But an unstable nation, it just sends a confusing, messy message to the world. It loses credibility, and crucial support, like, say, development funding for climate change, it gets delayed because other countries just can't trust that the framework will still be there next year.
And look, this isn't just about reputation. This has serious, real-world consequences. A country that's struggling with all this internal policy chaos finds it nearly impossible to meet its international commitments. Long-term climate programs, they get stopped in their tracks. Trade agreements become a moving target, and its entire negotiating position on the world stage is weakened because other nations simply can't be sure its promises will hold.
So, we've followed this ripple from the halls of government to the economy, to the family home, and now all the way out into the world. Okay, let's put it all together and really see the full picture. And here it is, all laid out. From governance and the economy to social cohesion and international relations,
every single domain gets hit. And you can see how they're all connected, right? They all trace back to that one root problem. A lack of stability in one area just creates friction and failure across the entire board.
And that's really the heart of it. What starts as a seemingly small, isolated policy shift, it doesn't stay small. It gathers momentum, creating a tidal wave of consequences that can rock an entire nation to its core. Which leaves us with one last, really critical question. In a world that's already so turbulent, stability isn't a luxury. It's the absolute foundation of progress. So the question is, how can any nation hope to build a lasting future when the very ground beneath its feet is constantly shifting?